I'm Naomi Nakira,
I'm Katie Fiedler.
and we're here to moderate the debate between Leah and
And Joseph.
I'm Leia Greene,
I'm Joseph Enriquez.
and we're running for president.
Given the worrisome rise of mental disturbances within the younger generation of American demographics in the last decade, what would you now do to improve the mental health of our citizens?
We want to have more access to rural areas, so more hospitals, and also there is a decline in nursing, and because of their salary is so low for nurses, and there's more nurses than doctors, and I don't think we appreciate them enough. So I think upping their pay may, increase helping other younger people like us. And there is a decline in younger, health because of the access to social media, drugs, and other things like that we can think of. So just having the access for teens to get healthcare, get mental help through therapists or other friends, family is would be a good thing. And I think a lot of times it's on parent pressure. So we also want to keep patient keep their information to them and not so much through their parents because that can scare them off.
Okay, so obviously mental health is a very important thing. So in teenagers, it is very likely that these mental health problems will develop into something worse, and that if they go unchecked, it doesn't end well. And for that, I think that in places that have really high suicide rates, that we should invest more instead of investing in everywhere as a whole. I think that we need to focus on a few key areas because it's very expensive. We need to distribute money to all these places, and we're going to save as many lives as we can if we are active in this. As a president, what would you do to increase the mental health treatment within the community for our vets and their families and caregivers?
There is a rapid decline in veterans, and we have seen this all throughout, military. That a lot of our veterans, and speaking for myself with my dad, who also deals with mental health issues himself, it does take a toll not only on the vets themselves but their families. So also having that access to VA centers and having people who are informed about, mental health specifically for veterans and what they went through can help a lot. So I think having access to that, not only for veterans but for their families too, would help a lot.
From an El Paso standpoint, we are a military, place. We have people that come in from stationed from everywhere, and it just really hits at home. These veterans that they go through so much, and they come home and they just have so many issues, and it's just terrible to see. Obviously, we need to put money towards these veterans as soon as we can. Veteran healthcare is very much up there on my priority list. So thank you. As president, how would you ensure that Americans keep their right to bear arms under the Second Amendment while also ensuring that gun violence drops?
We also want to keep American Second Amendment right, and I know a lot of times that we're disagreeing about that because we don't have enough regulation on firearms right now. So we want to do more thorough background checks because I don't think it's enough right now. I think it's way too easy to access a gun in our current situation. I think limiting access by making it harder to, reach the point of having access to a gun in general, having that knowledge, making people take a class, having a carry license, understanding how their weapon works, how to take it apart, put it back together, understanding how that firearm really works can be a life or death kind of situation. And also educating children about firearms can also be a big thing because if they're not educated youngly, then as adults they're going to use it inappropriately.
See, if it were that simple, I feel like we wouldn't have a problem here in the first place. Um, yes, guns should be. I think we need our right to bear arms. It's obviously one of our, Bill of Rights, and people we have that right to own guns, and depending on who we give it to, it might end badly. that is not on the person who gave it to them. It is on that specific person, and because of that, we shouldn't limit our own rights for that. So that's where I stand on that. With the unfortunate rise of gun violence in institutions such as public schools, what would be your plan to combat gun violence in schools?
Like I've said previously, having that knowledge of how your gun works and why it's dangerous and why it's safe if you use it correctly, while it's not taking away our Second Amendment at all, I think it's actually helping us. And having a knowledge about firearms can really, differ between that life and death scenario, like I said previously. So I think just having that knowledge of younger kids, adults, seniors, everybody should have knowledge about firearms, kind of like briefly. And if you own that gun, you should know your gun, in and out, and why it's dangerous and why it's not.
See, you can't account for everything. A parent can buy a gun and then their kid can take it. That is not on the fault of the parent. So even if we do a full background check on the adult, you can't really do anything. But for protecting our schools, I think that we should be investing our money into safer schools. That school safety, school security is very important to me. As president, how would you engage with us in other countries to reform, create, and cooperative innovation policies?
I think that collaborating with Mexico and other countries really helps us a lot. It gives us access to luxury goods and other items that we may not produce in the United States. But also, a plan of action that I have is actually upping production, upping factories, oil rigs, other businesses, supporting small businesses for items that we can access in America rather than access them outside, and having that tariff on that item, which causes everybody who nobody wants to pay tax for an item that we can get that's 2 times cheaper than what we originally needed to pay for. So I think upping production in the United States would help a lot, but also keeping those partners with Canada, Mexico, and other countries would be good.
Upping production in the United States, it seems good to me, but there's just some things we need to look out for. First of all, this whole time we've been talking about where we're going to be placing our money, and this whole time I've just been hearing from my opponent here that we're going to be putting ourselves in more and more debt, and we're not really watching out in ourselves in that way. I am, but you know, and that's why I think we just need to be watching our where we're spending.
Oh, I want to say something. I think it is important what you said, where our money is being spent, but I think investing now in things in America, like factories and oil rigs, like I have said previously, and businesses will also, in long term, help us because those tariffs
Will
really go
those
down.
long term things help us enough in the long term? Was the
That's what I
investment
just said.
is the investment enough? Because I really don't think it is. I think it's gonna hurt us too much short term, and that long term, that investment is not really gonna come through.
I think we have to think about our future generations and just right now.
Our future generations, how many generations are we talking about? 2, 3 generations? Who knows? It could take up to 5 generations for it to barely make a difference. And I just don't think that you're thinking that far ahead. Do you believe that increasing border security is the most effective way to combat drug trafficking, or should the U.S. focus more on international partnerships and advanced strategies on reducing illegal immigration? I think border security is really important. We not only does border security prevent drug, but it also prevents trafficking. Um, it is crucial to our safety, you know, and I like to think of it as we are building safer communities, and from that, like safety is something I very much prioritize.
Safety is also something I prioritize, and I agree with a lot of your points. Um, I do think that we need to treat immigrants fairly and humanely. I think we've seen a lot being in El Paso that are, you know, people who immigrate here to have a better life are not getting treated humanely. And it's way too hard to get citizenship in the United States. So I think we need to have a faster process, having knowledge translators, everybody who can help, really make that process way quicker. And I think just searching and doing, making sure that the right people come in the United States will, again, in the long run, make sure that we're safe. So I think my eyes.
See, faster doesn't always mean better though, and I want this to be very thorough. I want very thorough checks on these people because a secure border also protects our legal immigrants from also as backlash. So I think we need to factor in that as well.
It is a factor in my plan. I think upping border patrol. Um, I know it's a touchy subject, but border patrol controls our border. So I think actually supporting border patrol would actually help us a lot and making sure that that process is done correctly.
How will you ensure that all communities receive equal access to clean air and water, as well as equitable response to climate disasters such as wildfires or hurricanes?
I think that environment is really important for us because this is an environment that we live in, so we need to take care of it. So I think littering fees are not dispersed enough. I think we need to hold people responsible for littering in our water, on land, anywhere, and controlling what's going on in our forests. A lot of forest fires happen because of irresponsible people. So again, we need to have that knowledge of how forest fires start to begin with, how pollution can really kill the population in the long term.
So we were talking about forest fires and breathing air, and you bring up littering, which I don't see other than if someone threw a lighter on the ground how that would really affect. But either way, um, for clean air, there's really, you know, factory centered cities like Chicago, and in those places, the things that we can do better is that we can for transportation, use more public transportation rather than everybody using their own car, and just really just little things that we can knock down can really just start to improve air quality in those regions, and as well as these forest fires. They are a natural thing, and we cannot prevent forest fires completely, but in fire departments that we have, if we put some more attention to those, maybe putting some more in more rural areas, like there was a really bad fire not that long ago, then we can we can bring attention to more forest fires. What steps will you take to ensure we collectively reduce our carbon emissions? What steps will you take to ensure we collectively reduce our carbon emissions? Do you have emissions reduction target or timeline?
Our mission to cut down on carbon emission is making sure. I think a lot of factories are not. We're not regulating them enough. I think, as I said, we want to up production in the United States, but we also want to keep that in check, and we want to regulate it. So I think just keeping regulations on it will help a lot, and making sure that people are doing the right thing and not polluting our air and putting that carbon emissions into our air that we breathe every day.
As I said before, in very populated areas with cars, limiting that to public transportation. So that's what I already said. But here I see a conflict in interest in the upping of factories and the lowering of carbon emissions. I feel like those don't really work together here, but I don't know. Maybe instead of more factories, we look towards less carbon emissions in our air that our kids breathe and that we breathe. Yeah, so thank you. As a president, how do you support or advocate for families impacted by drug addiction?
Having that knowledge of what drug addicts families do, even though if you're not dealing with it personally, having that knowledge of what other people can go through is really important. We want to have access to that even in rural areas, populated areas. We want to have access to that everywhere. Rehabs need to be more affordable, and we need to have more access to it because a lot of rehab centers are full right now. So I think having more of them and having more access to it and having people really knowledgeable on that can help us a lot for families and the person that's also the addict themselves.
This ties into the mental health that I was talking about earlier. You know, putting more of these hospitals and places that there's high suicide rates because drugs do have a factor in that. And I feel like with these, we can knock out two problems at once, and we can lower drug use and we can lower suicide rates. And not only that, but as I said before, a secure border protects everybody. and that means that there's less drugs in the United States because it is really good at preventing drugs from being smuggled over from neighboring countries. Since 1980, the U.S. prison population has grown by almost 800%. The United States has more people behind bars than any other country in the world. What would you do as a president to reduce the U.S. prison population and end mass incarceration?
We need those secure borders. We need to limit drug use, gun use a lot. So having regulation on all of these things can really make an impact on who's in prison, and also not. We need to educate our police officers because people who are in jail get mistreated inhumanely through trial, before trial, and after, even when they're in prison. So having educated cops, having educated people out on our streets daily can really help us a lot. And again, regulating our secure borders can help us, limit the drug use, and that can really cut down.
Well, I agree with the secure border. It will, prevent smuggling and all sorts of drugs and stuff from coming over. Bad stuff. Um, Here we are talking about limiting, or there's too many people in the prisons, as we say, and for the the drug use that's on the streets, limiting access to it, we already got that covered. For the sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but there's just more security that I want to invest into so that we prevent these problems before they become bigger issues and we have to send more people to jail.
today only 20% of the world's people live in free countries. What do you view as the United States' role in strengthening democracy and protecting human rights around the world?
I think that, having education on other countries in schools, we get taught about it, but I don't think we get taught about it enough, about what's actually happening in other countries. Because what happens in other countries can really affect us with production, items that we're bringing into the U.S., items we're taking out of the U.S. So again, just having education on that can, go a long way.
I believe other countries' problems, while they matter to me, I think we need to put our own problems first. We have a lot of issues to deal with, as we've already talked about, and putting other citizens before we can get to our own is not my priority. If we can fix what we are going through by electing me, then I think we can get to international affairs as fast as we can, and eventually, who knows what that'll lead to. But I see a good future.
Conflicts regarding foreign interests with one another are growing more and more frequent, such as Russia, Ukraine, and Israel and Palestine. How much involvement, if any, should the U.S. have in these foreign conflicts? Should these foreign conflicts be a priority for America?
No, this should not be a priority for America. It's actually taking a lot of our soldiers' life, and I think it's very unnecessary for us to be involved in a situation that didn't involve us in the first place. So I think cutting down on, you know, having that kind of like socialization with other countries can help us, save soldiers' lives, save our lives, and at the end of the day, cut those terrorists again.
Whilst I agree with you, um, weren't you just saying that their problems can become our problems? And
They
I
can.
thought you were in support of, international affairs
I am
going
in
over there.
support, but we need to regulate it because having too much socialization with other countries can hurt us in the long run. Because if we trust people too much, then they backstab us, and that can happen to us.
See, I apologize, but it just seemed like you were going back and forth on your own ideas
That's
there.
okay.
But here, yeah, I don't think that Ukraine and Russia, what's going on over there, it's honestly a problem that if we step in, it might end really badly because Russia has nuclear weapons, and Russia, if threatened, who knows what they would do. I don't want to speak bad about Russia, but they are not in NATO, and same thing with um, or not Ukraine, Israel and Palestine. It's very tragic. I don't like the lives that are being lost, but we will get to these problems as soon as we can. We have our own nation's problems to focus on right now.
In your own opinion, should the federal government place limits on or would too much regulation violate free speech and information?
I think they kind of go hand in hand. I think having education on AI is important because it can really spread knowledge against our community, but also regulating it on our social media because creating fake posts, creating fake videos for campaigns or anything that we do is not correct. I think it, and spreading, there's a lot of AI using in news nowadays, and I don't think spreading false information is informing our people at all. So I think really spreading, keeping that AI videos out of the news, AI pictures out of news, keep it off social media because it has been used in very bad ways for women, men, and everybody in our community can be wronged by AI. So I think educating people in school because we use it so much in our schools, really educating us on how to use it correctly, what's wrong, what's right, can really be the difference for people.
AI is our future. AI will take jobs, sadly, but AI is gonna be developed no matter what we do. And in certain things, like very obviously illegal things, like taking somebody's identity that AI can do, we should obviously place limits on. However, I think AI will grow us as a country, and I think other than putting the very obvious legal limitations on it to where people don't use AI wrongly, is all we need for it. And I had a question for you because didn't your own team use AI to make false information about me? If I remember that correctly, that's how you used it, which does conflict with what you were
It does
saying.
conflict with what I'm saying, but you also use it to spread false information about me. So I felt like
I
we both
spread
did it to each
no
other.
false information.
You did spread.
Was you?
And you used my picture. You said it's wrong to use pictures of people that didn't really happen. So you did that using a
Excuse me.
volleyball picture.
Who said what?
You used a volleyball picture of me and put my photo on it to
Doesn't
spread false
doesn't your
information.
team represent you though? And your team representing
My team
you,
did represent me, and I thank them for representing me.
and I thank my team for representing me in a positive manner. But you spreading very bad information, taking something very serious and turning it into a joke, isn't something that I see in my own president.
Okay, I agree with you. Sounds like your feelings are hurt, but okay. Continue.
The United States is currently competing with countries like China to become the world leader in artificial intelligence. As president, will you prioritize rapid AI development and national competitiveness, or push a stricter regulation on AI even if it slows innovation?
I think that having access to AI can help us, but I don't think we should be competing with other countries because it can lead us to wars. It can, cybersecurity is a thing. I think that you know a lot of our wars can happen on a computer. It can happen on a phone. It can happen anywhere. So I think also regulating that, having information about it, and having the right people regulate it can help us a lot. But I don't think that we should have. I don't think that we should be competing with other countries for it.
See here, I finally agree with her, and on and yeah, I agree with that we shouldn't be competing, with the regulations and stuff. I think that AI in other countries, and it's like they have their things that they're going to advance in, and we have our own things that we're going to advance in. And at the end of the day, let's hope like we could just all be peaceful about it.
Okay. I think that you should vote for Leia and keep Earth green. So thank you very much for having me here today.
I think you should vote Joseph because I represent America, I represent freedom, and I represent integrity. Thank you.
Mind you, he's reading off the paper, and I haven't been this whole time.
Hey, it doesn't say anything about that on here.
No. Thank you. Sounds like your feelings are hurt, but okay.